Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Bob, and I am here today to talk to you about the Grand Moff Tarkin Star Wars Black Series figure. Yes, that's right. We are bouncing around here. Multiple figures, different companies, different toy lines, different sizes. We are just filling up your 1230 every day here with a different figure. So today we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite characters, actors, as well as hopefully figures, because I don't know. I've never opened this figure. This is Grand Moff Tarkin in the Star Wars Black Series. Now, the Black Series again, this is number 63 in the line since they redid the packages from black and blue, black and orange. Now they're just black and red. This is a 63rd figure. He came out, I'd say about 2018, sometime in 2018. He was a little tough to find. And then he kind of disappeared. He was in a very odd packed wave. And believe it or not, he ended up in some discount stores, some Kohl's, some Ross's. But I happened to one day walk into JCPenney. I was looking for baby clothes. My wife was expecting, and I walked through the kid aisle. And there he was sitting on the shelf. And, 30% off. So he was $13.99. Irony is, actually had someone at the office find him at full price, gave $20. I gave him $20. I got the figure, packed it away in a protective shield from Figure Shield, and haven't touched it since. I didn't have the heart to open it because it's one of my all-time favorite figures, and I really, really wanted to get this figure. So the chance to get him again is great, and there are multiple reasons. One, I'd love just to take the head off of Peter Cushing, Grand Moff Tarkin here, and put him on a different body and make a Hammer action figure. Now, granted, I think Cushing may have had one more Hammer film officially after Star Wars. I think it was Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. I think that was his last Hammer film. It was definitely his last time playing Dr. Frankenstein. There may be a vampire movie in there afterwards, but I'd have to double check just to be sure. So let's open this figure up. And I'm not going to destroy the figure and do a makeshift custom today. I just don't have the heart. And the other figure that I need, which is a Penny Dreadful Timothy Dalton figure, I didn't order yet because I didn't get him until quarantine hit. So haven't had a chance to look at him, put him in a stack. And you know what? Today I was like, you know what? He's opening up. Now, ooh, okay. So this is interesting. And I'll say interesting for two reasons. When I was doing my research on the figure and just looking it up real quick, bring him in closer here so you can get a better look at him. He does come with the interrogation droid. However, in one of my early photos of Grand Moff Tarkin when he was originally released, he came with the mouse droid. There is no mouse droid here, so that's interesting. That the mouse droid was teased and then removed, which I don't understand why, because this figure has no gun. He has no blaster. He has no pistol, no nothing. Every figure in the smaller 375 has a gun. So it's interesting that they did not put one with him. Granted, does he need one? Not really. So let's get the droid out first, because the droid's got a lot of little parts. Now, the one thing, let's take a look at the torture droid. Now, in case you need a refresher, this is the droid that comes into the room to get information out of Princess Leia, which is, if you look at the trilogy, the original trilogy on a whole, Vader says that her resistance to the mind probe is considerable, obviously because she's a Jedi. So this wasn't going to do it. Very cool, though, that Hasbro added this. So it's kind of like you get an extra figure out of it, because even droids come in, like in the 6-inch Black Series, R2-D2 comes by himself. Now BB-8 did come, and he's about that size, did come with the very first Rey Black Series figure that was ever released. Okay, so he's out. And I think it's kind of interesting that if we look here immediately, this caught my eye. See how this like pants like here? It's like the riding pants, very, Nazi Germany-esque the uniform has always been based on. They actually hid the double joint knee in there, but they made it that you could see it. So I wonder why they just didn't close that over. And it's on both sides. Here it's a little bit more obvious, but I appreciate the double knee joint considerably. And the boots are fantastic. Now, if you know anything about Peter Cushing, when he did this part, he found the boots to be very uncomfortable. So actually, if you see any production photos, you'll usually see them cut from about here up, because they didn't want, or I won't say production photos, studio photos of him in the role for the movie. It's because he's wearing slippers. He put on bedroom slippers so that he would be more comfortable and do the role. I mean, what do you want? The guy was as old as he was a legend, and just awesome that he was in this film, and that we have. I mean, for me as a fan of Star Wars, I wanted to see other movies with this guy in it. When I got to be older and really started to appreciate him, and then I realized, well, wait a minute, he's in these Frankenstein and Dracula movies, and that just opened up a whole floodgate for me. So I'm sure I probably would have discovered them over time, but my love of Hammer films really starts with Peter Cushing in Star Wars, and how that just expanded. And then, of course, I learned that Darth Vader, who was played in The Suit by David Prowse, is in a lot of Hammer films. And then, the irony is, years later in Attack of the Clones, Christopher Lee, who was always in a Hammer film as Dracula, would end up would play Count Dooku. And the two of these guys were friends. So I really do like that we can pose him in his classic pose like this. And as you saw, he stands perfectly fine by himself without a stand. This nice wave of the hair here. You can put the hands behind him. But we do have the famous like almost like chin look. And I don't think his arms are going to allow me to do it. He does hold his chin in the movie, and it's very difficult to get his fingers to pose in that way. Now we have a double knee joint here. We don't really have a double shoulder joint so that he can pose. So you can just kind of, Vader, this will better work. But you can't really get the hands to the face. So, but let's talk about the face. So we can't do the classic pose, and if you watch this on YouTube, I do have the pose at the end where he just kind of has his finger on his chin where he's like thinking. But if you do, let's talk about the face. So they use the photoreal technology here, and as you can see, it is an amazing likeness of Peter Cushing. Fantastic. Look at that. I mean, he lives and breathes. I mean, and Cushing, they actually did release, because Cushing was, Cushing. Grand Moff Tarkin was actually in Rogue One, played by a different actor, and they used technology to cover his face so he would look like Peter Cushing. They actually released the figure to go with Rogue One. Plus, they also released a Star Wars board game that actually had the figure in the style of the 1977 Star Wars figures. So you can actually get a vintage style figure on a card and everything, but he comes with the Escape from the Death Star board game. That means you have to open the board game and get him in the card, and then you have to take him out of the card. It's a lot of stuff to do, but there are several Grand Moff Tarkin figures. There's one for Revenge of the Sith, when he's played by Wayne Penguin, better known as Scorpius on Farscape, and then you can also get there is a Power of the Force Hasbro, like the 1995 and on generation. He was eventually released again. That figure's pretty good. I have it with my Death Star, and actually when we built the Death Star a couple weeks ago, we actually had him in it. So he's still in it now. I got to actually move that around. But as far as the detail goes, Hasbro is basically wash, rinse, repeating a lot of this uniform on the sculpt. Maybe not the hands so much, and definitely not the face, but they're definitely using this body outside of this part for different figures. So General Veers, a Walgreens exclusive, very similar. Admiral Piet, again, the faces are different, but the bodies are very much the same. So I particularly like this figure a lot. I think it's very a strong likeness of the character. It's not your typical Star Wars figure. This is you have all the bad guys lined up, and you've got him just standing there waiting. And I always liked that he was the one guy who could basically tell Vader, hey, calm down. We're going to get this done my way, not your way. So, like that. So, we're going to put him here. And I'm sorry that I can't really zoom in too much on his face. But we will put him next to a biker scout, so you can kind of get an idea of the size of the figure next to another Imperial officer. I thought that was kind of appropriate today. And then to take it one step further, we will put him next to a 375 Stormtrooper. So there's the scale of the scope. So the 6-inch figure, definitely imposing. And this was something that I brought up. I'm going to bring it up every time with a Black Series figure. The Black Series figures are incredibly popular with the fans. Everybody's asking for more and more characters of the Black Series figure. And since Star Wars and Hasbro and Kenner and everybody has made loads of characters, the 375-inch line is starting to die off, and people aren't getting them as much. However, the 375-inch line is the key to vehicles and playsets and more characters that you could go back and world build. This Stormtrooper is from Rogue One, but easily pop his armor off and he could be a Stormtrooper from A New Hope, or you could, there's no difference. My thing is, I think that when fans were, as fans have gotten older, this was the figure of their youth, this size. And now that they're older and their hands are bigger, this brings us back to more like being a kid. And I think that is the key to the 6-inch Black Series figure. So, relatively short review today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. My name is Bob. We will be reviewing numerous things across the spectrum of toys and action figures, and we're even going to build some vehicles coming up very soon. So please tune in every day at 12:30, or subscribe to our YouTube page, and you're able to check out all these reviews in blocks, and then we put them together like horror toys are in their own section. Star Wars is its own section. Hasbro, Mezco, we try to break them in, so if you're interested in toys from those lines, you can definitely see different things, and lots of other fun, cool figures. So thank you very much. Have a good day.